from everything from Joy to the World to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, okay? I'm going to start with some of the music that you know from my Charlie Brown Christmas, Linus and Lucy, and then Christmas Time is Here. So. That sounds kind of loud. says mute off. Oh, and what do I do? It's working. I'll use it. Yeah, so you heard the Charlie Brown music, and then I played the most wonderful time of the year. In my mind, I hear Andy Williams when I hear that song. It's from his 1963 album that is entitled the Andy Williams Christmas Album. If you were going to name an album, would you name it that? I mean, you know, the John Smith Christmas album. I thought he could have had a more imaginative title, but it's a really wonderful arrangement. Yeah, and then I segued into my favorite things, and you were maybe wondering, hey, it's the Sound of Music, why is he playing my favorite things? Well, you know how it starts. Well, Oscar Hammerstein, you give credit, he's the lyricist, and it was written in 1958, just for a little background, obviously for the Sound of Music. But you know how it starts, raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, right? Yeah. No controversy. We're all like cool with that. Those are some of my favorite things too. You go through there and you get to snowflakes that stay on your nose and eyelashes. Not too bad. I don't mind that so much, but I've experienced a whole lot more snow than just a few snowflakes that stayed on my nose and eyelashes. Well, for one thing, it can screw up your glasses if you get a lot of snow on your glasses. But I got to tell you, I grew up with a lot more snow than they have in Pittsburgh. I grew up in northern Michigan, and my wife and I later, we lived in Minneapolis for many years in International Falls. But I have to tell you about the first winter we were married, which is 1971. And before I do that, the star, Lisa Wiens, my wife, is right here. Would you stand up, Lisa? So yeah, in winter of 1970, well, we were married in September of 71, and this is close to Lake Superior where we lived, and for some odd reason, it was over 90 degrees. We got married on this really hot day. But anyways, winter came, and we had 288 inches of snow. Wow. And the average there had been 200 inches, and a few years after we were both going to college there, and a few years later, they had 350 inches one winter, and I'm really glad I missed that one. But I will tell you that 288 inches, you pretty much work, sleep, and shovel snow. And you can eat all the fattening pastries you want, and you will not get fat, because you're just working so hard shoveling snow all the time. But anyway, so I'm going to play some songs about snow. Now that I've got you thinking about snow. By the way, my wife still loves snow, but I'm embittered. I don't want to see it anymore. I've seen too much of it. But I'd like to play Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow. What would you say if you were going to play that song? Wouldn't you say, I'm going to play Let It Snow? I pretty much would, but that is actually the title, Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow. And it was written by some Eskimos. Actually not. It was written by some professional songwriters that lived in, California. It was written in 1945 in a heat wave in July in California by a couple of songwriters that probably never had snow on their eyelashes or eyeglasses. And so they don't really know what they're talking about, but they wrote a great song, Let It Snow. And I'll transition into a couple other snowy Christmassy songs. I don't understand this technology. Yeah, I hear it's on too, but oh well.
1970 by Jose Feliciano, Feliz Navidad. Navidad means nativity, which is about the birth of Jesus. Feliz Navidad is translated really Merry Christmas. There's an interesting story. I like songs. I like the stories behind songs. As a young man, he was recording an album in California again. That's where the Christmas songs seem to come from. And he was kind of blue and lonely because his family was back in Puerto Rico. And I might say if it was an ordinary family, his brother and his sister, but the truth is he had 11 brothers back in Puerto Rico. It was kind of amazing. They could have done the 12 disciples, in the picture. But yeah, anyways, the producer, he told the producer that he was feeling kind of depressed, and he said, well, why don't you write a song, just from your heart about Christmas? And in about 15 minutes, he wrote this song, and some wise person counted the words in it. It only has 19 words in it. So it's a simple song with a huge impact. It's pretty amazing. And it kept getting more and more popular over the years until in the year 2020, it kind of peaked at number 6 on Billboard's Top 100. So anyways, I do enjoy playing this song. The next song is going to be a lot slower than that, but very pretty, sweet little Jesus boy. I used to think that was an old spiritual, like, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot or Steal Away, but it was actually written by a man in Louisiana whose name I forget, but it was written in the mid-30s, and he grew up listening to a lot of music of African Americans around him, and one thing I do have in common with him is that he sang in a choir in his church directed by his mother. I also sang in a church choir directed by my mother when I was like 11 or 12 years old. And then I graduated to being the church pianist when I was 13, because a little church of about 30 people, it was easy to be the best piano player in the church. So, yeah, sweet little Jesus boy. If you don't recognize it, enjoy it anyway. It's a very, very beautiful song. And I'm wondering what time it is. Okay. I'd like to play, I'm going to play my arrangement of While Shepherds Watch Their Sheep. This is actually an arrangement that I recorded on my album, which is not called A Christmas with Henry Wiens, but it's called Silent Night. The melody, the one that I think most of us are used to singing, was actually written by Handel a long time ago before the songwriter wrote the text. And this whole album is an album of meditation, and the melodies aren't always very obvious. My brother-in-law always called it my hidden melodies tape, but he did like it. But anyways, if you listen, I think you will hear the melody, not always, but be listening for that while shepherds watched their sheep. Oh, I did want to remember to tell people that want to listen or do listen to much music on your phone or on your computer that there are, I think, 7 of my albums available. Well, they're on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Music, but they're also, you have to pay there, and you can hear it for free on my website, which is called sharingcomfort.com. It's pretty easy to remember, right? sharingcomfort.com, and you'll see the Silent Night is about the third one down, from top to bottom. But yeah, you can listen. If you actually want to download it, then you have to go to iTunes or something like that. Turn it down just a tad. get some booklets passed out, please.